does not intend to offend you, but it will. Delmarva's Rock Radio, 93.5 The Beach.
7:15, Adam Calvert calling in, my cousin Adam. Say, Adam, how are you, fella?
Great. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good. Seen any good movies lately?
Let's see. What was the last movie I saw? The last movie I watched was Shadow of a Doubt, the old Hitchcock movie.
Shadow of a Doubt, Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock's got some good ones.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen, what's that movie you guys watch?
The Crow?
Oh, The Crow? Is that what you watched last night?
Oh, no, I thought you meant the Crow that Alfred Hitchcock... No, it wasn't Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, you watched Sling Blade last night.
Sling Blade?
Yeah, they watched Sling Blade last night. They were doing Sling Blade impressions all day long. The movie came out, 20 years ago?
Yeah. It's a little late.
and a terrible movie, by the way.
I reckon that movie was horrible.
I thought it was like Billy Bob Thornton got nominated for an Oscar, didn't he?
It was a good movie.
Well, it's just like Robert Downey Jr. said in Tropic Thunder that if you act like a retard in a movie, you automatically get nominated for something.
I mean,
he was totally overacting.
He wasn't really retarded either. He's just I don't know. I mean, he had some sort of mental deficiency.
He was retarded.
Well, I mean, I guess in the general sense he was retarded. I mean, I'm not a doctor.
I tell you what, the worst retarded movie ever made, the absolute worst, made me want to kill myself, was Radio with Cuba Gooding. Cuba Gooding Jr.
With Radio?
That damn movie Radio with that Cuba Gooding Jr.
Pretty much any movie with Cuba Gooding Jr. makes me want to kill myself.
We were forced to watch that in I think like social studies or something like that in high school.
How do you guys feel about how Radio was being, discriminated against, and it came out to be a hero?
And then he was accepted later on after he. That's the other thing is I forget how the movie went, but then he had to do something heroic to be accepted.
I don't know. I think it was like a Rudy, only instead of Corey Feldman or whoever it was, it was
Sean Astin.
It was.
I like how we're talking about these movies we know nothing about. We're just like, so this movie about this guy or something. I think it was like Brad Pitt or someone like that. And anyway, it was okay, but I don't know. I didn't see it. All right, my cousin Adam
McAdam.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid this, but you even said to me last night, all right, the biggest legal week in 15 years, and you're not going to let me talk about the Casey Anthony trial. So I said, all right, fine, we'll give you your time for the Casey Anthony trial. Tell everyone why they're not allowed to be mad about this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like I shouldn't be a victim of circumstance here just because it happened on a Monday. So people shouldn't be upset because, like a lot of people have been saying, the jury got it right. The problem here really was just with the charge. People are upset because they think Casey Anthony did something wrong, which is true. She did.
She lied to cops.
But what they wanted her found guilty for was murder one. And there just wasn't the evidence there to prove that that's the wrong that she did. She might have done a lot of other things wrong, which she actually did do a lot of other things wrong, but the evidence just wasn't there to support that murder was the thing that she did.
So what would have been the proper approach to maybe make this stick? Because obviously she's been sitting in jail for 3 years now. Should they have maybe tried her on the whole child abuse, neglect charge first and then come around later and tried to charge her with murder, or what? Because, I mean, seriously, once you're found not guilty of the most egregious charge, everything else is just going to kind of fall into place because the chips are going to fall where they did. That's exactly what happened. I mean, we've been talking about it a little bit. It's not like the O.J. trial. Unfortunately, O.J. walked free. But in the O.J. trial, they had a murder weapon. They had a murder scene. They had all sorts of evidence. They almost could place him at the crime. They had DNA evidence, which I don't think it was even admitted at the time, and he walked free. In this case, they had none of that stuff. So to me, it seems rather obvious as to why she walked away from this.
They could have charged her maybe with the neglect charges or things like that, but they went for the home run, murder one, and the problem is that you couldn't piecemeal prosecute them, meaning charge them with one thing. If that doesn't work, you charge them with something else because you have double jeopardy problems. If anyone wants an explanation of double jeopardy, I think there's an excellent movie starring Ashley Judd that will explain everything. So you can't piecemeal charge them.
Now, is there an opportunity for a civil trial like the O.J. trial? Because, O.J. obviously found not guilty of murder one, but then later on he was able to be sued by the families of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson. And in this case, who could sue Casey Anthony? The grandparents weren't the legal guardians. So Casey Anthony's obviously not going to sue herself for the tragic death of her daughter. So is there any chance of even having a civil trial where she'll actually pay, at least from a monetary standpoint?
No, not really. Although I will say this, the modern trend in family law has been to start recognizing rights of grandparents, and for instance, let's say visitation. So if if the grandparents actually brought a suit against Casey, it wouldn't be the strangest thing in the world, and they might have an argument at least to make, but it wouldn't really go anywhere.
Adam, why do people care so much about this, acting like this is the first time someone's gotten away with a crime, if she even got away with a crime?
I think it really has more to do with just the age that we're in. The social media age got people so convinced that she was guilty.
Yeah, but people get away with murder every single day of the week.
She's been in jail for 4 years. Or 3 years. They probably passed her around like a cigarette because she's a looker.
I think it has something to do with the nature of the crime. I mean, it's not a murder of an adult. It's a murder of a 2-year-old girl. It was a crime that wasn't. They're not reporting it for 30 days. I think people had people really upset. And like I said, I think it really has something to do with the age that we're living in, the social media, just the nonstop coverage. I mean, if you think back to the OJ trial in the 90s, before the internet was what it is, that was a real murder trial. That was real coverage. But
at least he was famous going in. I do have to say that all these I see a lot of people on Facebook like, I can't believe a woman could do this and nothing happens to her. Well, you can't say nothing happened. Her face is all over the news. She's like she's hated by the entire world. She did sit in jail for 4 years, and then they couldn't even prove the charges. So
she's loaded now.
Arguably, if there's any injustice done, it was done to her. Because if they can't prove the charge, but she was still in jail for 4 freaking years. So I mean, I thought in the justice system you have to really kind of prove a charge before you put someone in prison for 4 years.
Well, I guess they did just convict her of the misdemeanor, for lying to police, and so, she did the time for what she did, which was lie to police about it. Anything else, you can't really prove. Yeah. I mean, everything else is just very, very circumstantial. It's more actually a character evidence. I mean, just saying that Casey Anthony was a bad mother, or look at her behavior over those 30 days. After her daughter was missing, that doesn't prove murder.
And there's a lot of. That's the other thing that annoys me is that I even saw, going back to Facebook for a minute, that's where I get all my ideas of how people feel about things. I even saw that there are people on Facebook talking about how Casey Anthony, what a bad mother she was, and she was out partying and clubbing. And many of the people that were saying this, if you look at their pictures, they're wearing whorish outfits out partying also. So I mean, and they probably have kids also. So there's a million bad mothers out there. But it's like we like to put things in little boxes. And so for the last 4 years, Casey Anthony was like the villain of the entire world, when there's probably 6 million other people just as bad as her, making themselves feel better, saying, "Oh, well, at least I'm not Casey Anthony." There's a million whorish mothers out there that leave their kids with who knows who and go out partying or clubbing or whatever.
Well, and what's your take on all of the legal experts who had their opinion and they went on all the shows and they let that opinion be told to the world, and then they all got it wrong? What's your take on them and how they should feel about all this?
I think that they kind of fell into the trap. They stopped being lawyers for a minute. And what I mean by that is that they got caught up in this notion that, well, yeah, she's guilty, even before she had the trial. And they forgot to realize that there is a trial. The jury is going to hear everything, not just what gets reported on the news, and that there's a standard of proof. It's not whatever the standard of proof in a murder trial isn't whatever the public thinks happened. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's a pretty tough standard to fill. I think that one attorney, the one defense attorney, the fellow looks like George Lucas, said just as much. You guys have been running off the mouth thinking that she's guilty. You guys forget that there's a trial for a reason.
Internet wants to jump in and say something. He's like making noises.
I'm like, well, since you said everybody stopped being lawyers and stuff, do you think that the judge would possibly be biased because everybody who's ever been booked up for a crime has stretched the truth or lied to law enforcement, and the judge gives her the maximum sentence for lying to law enforcement?
Well, he didn't. He
did.
Because it was like 4 charges of lying, so he actually dumped them all down to 1 year.
No, it was the maximum.
What he did was he made her serve them consecutively as opposed to at the same time, because what he said was
she already did.
She could have just served 1 year. The lies, he said, were different at different points, as opposed to one big lie, in which case the sentences would have had to been served at the same time. as opposed to back to back to back, which is what he gave her.
If she did lie 4 different times, I mean, there shouldn't be a reason for her to lie unless she did do it. And since she wasn't convicted, is this still an open investigation? Are they still looking for a suspect that did murder Casey Anthony or Kaylee Anthony?
Well, I don't know what the police are doing. I wouldn't think so, just because there's a lack of evidence. I mean, if some other sort of piece of evidence surfaced, yeah, I mean, sure. Somebody
unless the evidence is that she did it, then they can't go back and try.
Yeah, well, if that's, I mean, look, she didn't do it, which means case is closed. We're giving up. You know, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, that happened with the Jonbenet Ramsey case where they blamed the parents and they thought they were hell bent that the parents are the ones that killed her, and then they come to find out, years later that nope, that's not the case. We've got new evidence and we're going to move forward on this. So there still is a chance for someone to find out that somebody else actually did this. Right. And I disagree with you. Just because she lies to the police, it doesn't necessarily mean that she did it. It just means I don't want this heat on me, and she doesn't seem like the brightest bulb in the bunch. So she could have just been.
I think she's a sociopathic liar, and I think that she, something happened to this girl, whether it be that Casey murdered her or she died accidentally, and she just kind of fell into this sort of trap of just lying and keep lying and covering it up. And if your little girl dies, whether it be because you murdered her and you're worried about getting caught, or because she died accidentally and you're just dealing with it in completely the wrong way, that's what happened. She just got caught up in her own lies, and then that's what she got convicted of, rightfully so.
All right, well, Adam Calvert, we got to let you go. But before we do, I just want to quickly get your impressions of and honestly, I have to say, brilliant point I made yesterday about how I think the reason why people are so upset here is because they have this misconceived notion that the justice system actually is in charge of, enacting justice when it can do no such thing. In other words, an injustice is done, a travesty occurs, and then we expect the court system to come in and, make it right. When really a guy in a robe and 12 dudes in a box can't do that no matter what happens. All that you guys in the justice system can do is take someone who's a threat to society, remove them from society so that society can continue to function, relatively at ease. But you can't go in and take some horrible thing that happened and make it right. So you guys really can't bring justice to the world like what people want you to do. I know that's what you say, but you really can't.
People want a conviction in this case. I think that's the problem. People didn't want the truth. People didn't want the right decision. They wanted a conviction because that gives people closure. I think the difference here between this and, for instance, say the Jonbenet Ramsey case. At least in the Jonbenet Ramsey case, nobody was ever charged, so there's always a chance. And there's not. I guess it doesn't get people's hopes up that finally the real killer is going to be caught. That's what people I think are really upset about here. Is maybe they don't really know it. It's just that they're not going to get to put somebody away in jail for this.
Right. They want vengeance, and they feel like something horrible is done. They want someone to go in there and make it right. My point is that no matter what happens, nobody can ever do that, and whoever is responsible for it will experience ultimate justice. And so the fact that that person avoided prison in the long run makes no difference whatsoever, actually. But Adam Calvert, My Cousin Adam, go to mycousinadam.com. Appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you on Friday. Next Friday.
All right, guys.
All right.
Take care.
See you.
Talk to you on tomorrow, Friday.
It's Friday. And we can officially never talk about the word Casey Anthony ever again. Hopefully.